this. Stick up here. Good to be here, and lovely to have some of you here. It's been a while. We're in pretty amazing energies and pretty extraordinary times, excuse me. And so I'm kind of landed enough and organised enough to feel that I can share. So I won't be able to share all of it in one go, but I'll share some of it now. And welcome Charlotte, welcome Sally. So quite incredible as a journey, quite incredible as a place, as a destination. And of course, all in the midst of everything else that's going on in the world and in my life. But yep, we left a group of us, three of us left together and headed off for San Francisco on the 29th of August. And then a couple of others from New Zealand joined us there. And then from San Francisco, we went from San Francisco to Fort Lauderdale, stayed there in an Airbnb for a few nights, and then met the entire group of 20 others who were going to Bimini. So yeah, this whole thing about going to Bimini has been interesting for me because, first of all, I need to tell you this story. A long time ago, when I asked Gaia about Atlantis, and I said to her, sorry, I've got that bit of hair sticking up. Oh, well, it is. Where is there in the world? Is there a place in the world where the city of Atlantis still can be seen in the physical? And she said, yes, there is, and it's Bimini. And I had not heard of Bimini, and to be honest, you might have heard me say this before, I felt like it was some kind of place from Dr. Seuss. That's what it conjured up for me. Anyhow, a while ago, Rebecca Gamble sent me this link, and when I clicked on so it was the link for going swimming with the dolphins, and when I clicked on it, my entire body went and I said, oh shoot, I think I'm going on this. And anyway, I messaged her and she said, can I ring you? And I said yes. And she said, I did a QHHT session a couple of weeks ago, and because she's an animal communicator, and I connected to the dolphins, and I asked the dolphins what I needed to know, because the dolphins had been speaking to her for a couple of years about that she needed to take a dolphin swimming trip. And so she'd been to Bimini twice before, and so she knew the landscape and the setup. And anyway, she was guided to do this, and when she did this QHHT session about the trip and asked the dolphins, they gave her my name. They said, contact Sharon Martin, she'll be going on the trip. Now, Rebecca Gambles and I had met twice before, but just briefly, just sort of in passing. And we have, over this trip, we've developed this really lovely connection. So it's been fantastic. But that's the kind of beginning story of this. So on the 29th of August, we set off. Mary Jo Halligan, Rebecca Gambles and I left Auckland to fly to San Francisco to then fly to Fort Lauderdale. We had this experience of missing our connecting flight. That was pretty interesting. Like, we missed it by 1 minute. She just closed the door to the connection portal, whatever that's called, to the plane. And we looked at her, and like we'd already checked in our luggage, and she went, no. So we waited around for 4 hours for another flight, and we had somebody else join us from New Zealand as well, on a different flight, and then we were traveling together on the next flight. So it was a pretty interesting start, and it's really interesting that I wrote in here we missed the connecting flight by 1 or by 3 minutes. No one called for us either. That was interesting, because in New Zealand somebody would call for you. They would say, hurry up, we're waiting for these people. But no, not there. So we discovered later that American Airlines often overissue seats. We spoke to an American guy on the next flight who said, oh, it's likely that they just put someone else in your seats. They often don't designate seats either. Everyone just goes in and sits where they like. So it was interesting to me, because we were really in this practice, even though we didn't speak about it, we were really in this practice of being present with what is. And there were no issues that arose from the fact that we missed the flight, and we just had to book ourselves into another flight. It didn't cost us any other money, but that was how we began. And so, I wrote in here, we were philosophical about it, just as we were collectively about most of what happened. There was this really beautiful, this is how we do things now, way of being with accepting what is and just dealing with what comes. So we ended up flying into Miami and then getting an Uber to Fort Lauderdale Airport to go in and pick up our luggage, because that's where that had gone, and then finding our way to Airbnb. And on the flight, I wrote in here, I had a window seat, and I saw fork lightning and sheet lightning on the way in. We had 5 diversions. So the weather was an interesting phenomena with where we went and what we did. We had 5 diversions to avoid lightning and storm cells. That's what the pilot had told us. So we also, because of that, we ended up flying over Bimini. And Deb, who was part of our crew at that point, she said, I felt that was why we flew over. So the dolphins knew that we were here, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was so. So we stayed in this Airbnb that Rebecca had found for us, with a beautiful pool, and really that's what we did. We pretty much spent time lazing about the pool and swimming for a few days before we moved to the Hilton for the night to connect in with the other people who were going on the trip. And then Rebecca found this place. It's just interesting. It's just how we're guided, isn't it? So she found this place for us to go and eat breakfast that had organic food and vegan food, and it was called Grateful. So we had quite a few meals there. I have had this whole eye issue going on with my right eye, which is still a little bit swollen, and it's interesting because it's not affected any of my vision, and I've been in and out of the water and in the sun. And then I read something that Rick Jewers wrote about that the right eye in particular, is having an upgrade. So if you're having issues with your right eye, then that might be the case. But mine's just been a little bit fluidy up in here and still hasn't quite gone away. So that's been like that for 3 weeks now. It relates to our psychic vision upgrades, which you will no doubt remember that I spoke about how that was coming. So I wrote in here that we have been practicing, and although putting into practice is more accurate, this idea of being present with what is and of going with what next. And this is how we proceeded to find our way to through many things and to many places. So I wrote in here 4 people traveling together on minimal sleep. So I had 3, I don't know how I did it, but I had 3 days solid without sleep. And yet we all sort of, were vibing harmoniously. So Gaia said the following day, it's spilling over this is what we were doing while we were in flight, and why we got diverted. We got diverted both on the way there and on the way back as well. And let's see, hello Charlotte, and hello Sally, and hello Carolyn, saying weird times, huge shift for me, started new life. Yes. So I think that I wrote that for sometime in the last couple of days. I'll get to it though. Rob's saying his left eye is impacted, sty and itchy. Okay, so maybe some people are having the left eye as well. And Sally's saying she'd seen that Rick had written some things about the right eye, and that she had surgery in May. And hello, Alive Thrive. Yeah, so I'm not sure of the date of this, but this was, let me see, either the 1st or the 2nd of September. That guy was saying it's spilling over, you are sprinkling in down, and you have all this crystalline light into the oceans and lands, and that's what we were doing on our journey there. And now you will activate it with the connection to and with the dolphins and the cetacean representatives. So it was a pretty big picture view that she was giving about the work that we were doing. And she said, we are in activation phase now. So that's the beginning of this month. First wavers are absolutely doing that. And second and third wavers are at variant stages of their awakening. The emerald codes are hearkening. That means wanting to be heard. And that it's August I'm talking about, is it? I'm confused. Yes, this was August. The emerald codes on the... Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't know about you, but I am in this quite removed, detached connection to time and space, and have been for a little while now. So anyway, I'll just tell you the dates that are here, because it doesn't kind of make sense to me in my head. But this is my Bimini book. I only started writing about it when I went. So on the, yeah. I'll just read the dates that are here, even though in my head they're not making sense. That on the 2nd that we were, no, on the 3rd of August, late on the 3rd of August, that all of us were entering into that, what Gaia was calling the deepening phase. She said there's a treasure trove of information and codes to be retrieved from the Bahamian waters. Some will come as collected pieces of the puzzle, and the sharing of the codes, the information, the memory flashes that occur during the journey, both on and in the ocean, will catalyze more sharings and rememberings. A memory code puzzle will be compiled. Interesting that Rebecca, well, and I was filmed as well, but Rebecca was being filmed for this documentary about her and her connection with communicating with the dolphins, and it was really interesting because they filmed for a couple of hours, and they only got, I might have filmed for 3 hours, and a whole lot of it didn't record. And so when I tuned into that, I got that there was a bigger story to be told, and so it would be told later, and that the frequency of what trips off the tongue for Rebecca will be higher after the trip. Yeah, so then we went to the Hilton in Fort Lauderdale, and met up with everybody else. So Sunday, the 1st of September, these codes from Bimini will bring some finishing aspects for all members of the group, and also this will ripple out and into the staff at Wild Quest. So we were there on Bimini, we'd met the staff, an incredible group of people. I just fell in love with all of them. They were just amazing. The ancient Atlantean codes that specifically link to ancestral amphibian life and rectifying the damage and intrusions experienced or orchestrated. That's what the experience of being in Bimini was facilitating. So it's the idea of any being that you may have had a life as an amphibian, an ancient amphibian being. So that could be mermaid, it could be merman, it could be some of the beings that were more like dolphin-like, cetacean-like. But it was those ancient codes that what was happening while we were there is that those ancient codes were being remedied, rectified, healed, reconstituted. So that was part of the work that we were doing. And then Mark, who was a journalist there who was doing filming and interviewing, he interviewed me and he asked me this really interesting question. He said, what will you be in 7 days? And what popped out of my mouth was this. So this may be meaningful to you or not, but out of my mouth popped, so this did not come from my brain, the sacred holy ornament completed. That's what I would be in 7 days' time. It was the channeled answer. I was showing that everyone in the group who was there was attached by a thread. I still need to let the group know this. I was going to speak to the group about this on the last day, but we had some sort of extra rearrangements to get everybody off the island, so we ran out of time. But what everybody was doing in the group that went there was unraveling back to the original divine blueprint. So we were undoing the ancestral lines, the geographical lines, and the cultural lines, the undoing of all, and I feel this in my body as I say it, all of the intrusions from the Atlantean times. On the 2nd, so I wrote every day, but not very much. On the 2nd, what Gaia told me was that the waters complete their saturation level today of the higher crystalline code. So you may have had an experience of feeling like that on the 2nd day of September, that we were, as humanity, going through this rapid assimilation of that now. And so this rapid assimilation of the crystalline codes occurring for all of sentient life. So not just humanity, but all sentient life on the earth, and that we were coming into another increase in the speed of assimilation. So it was that we were in this rapid assimilation, but it was going to continue to become more rapid. That we were also in this speed of increase in the tones, in the codes, and in the frequencies, supported by the amphibian nature of all. So I've just found that really interesting, this kind of interweaving with this amphibian aspect of our world and of our own history, our own cellular history, our own akashic history. And that this was providing this greater connection for all throughout the realms. So Rebecca ran a workshop with us on a couple of evenings, but on this one particular evening, everybody was attuning to one another's energies. And then on another, we really set up, and I'm sorry, I forget what Rebecca called it because Gaia called it something else, but we set up this pattern, if you like, this energetic signature, you might want to call it, of all of those of us who were going to swim with the dolphins. So we did that. So we went swimming. The first day we had we had a time out on the boat for a few hours on the first day, and we did have some dolphin encounters. But that evening we did this really big work where we created this energetic template, and the next day we just had dolphins everywhere. The people on the crew, the people at Wild Quest, they said that it was, well, I don't want to say never, but that it was unusual. It was unusual that we had good enough weather to get out for 5 days in a row, and it was most unusual that we would have experiences with the dolphins every day. And I think, and I could be wrong, and somebody can correct me, but we had 2 days where we snorkeled on a little reef as part of the day, and I'm sure that we did 2 or 3, and one day even 4 swims with the dolphins. And then we also swam on the Atlantean Road or snorkeled. So we were in and out of the water. The dolphins were around. The dolphins were playful and excited and amazing, and they were just threading themselves in and out of us at times. And there were a couple of times when dolphins came close enough to me that I could have touched them, although I chose not to. But they were a hand width away. And there was one occasion where I saw this dolphin on the bottom, and I psychically knew, it telepathically told me it was coming to me. And I watched and I thought, well, I think it's that one that spoke to me. And then all of a sudden it started swimming vertically straight up at me, and I was in the place where I thought, you were much better in this environment than I am, and I'm sure that you will miss me, but if you keep on that trajectory, you'll be sticking your dolphin beak up my butt. Anyway, of course it changed its trajectory, and it just came up straight in front of me and then wheeled off. So it was incredible to be in their energy and in their frequency so often, and even on the bow of the boat, because the water is so clear. Even there were 2 times when I said to the skipper, what does the depth finder say now? And once he said 32 feet, and once he said 38 feet, and I said I can see the bottom. So from the deck of the boat, I could see the bottom. That's how clear the water is. So we dived in water, or we snorkeled in water anywhere from 2-3 meters to probably 10, 12, 14 meters. And all of it was clear. So during that workshop that we did, what I saw was that we formed the star tetrahedron as a group. It had more spiraling aspects to it as well. But this was between and amongst the energetic fields and the connections of the entire group who were there from the States, from Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And that we were to form and reform connections and portals above and below, from internal of the earth to the outer galaxies, to bring ease and reformation. So it really brings emotion in me as I say that. And acceptance, to anchor in a holographic template that is a new way of connecting, for a higher way of being, for energetic imprinting and relating. So that sounds pretty lofty, and I'm sure that that's what we were doing. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. Sarah was one of our dolphin crew. Right. So this sensory experience of being and interrelating, being the new and higher way for humanity. I've got goosebumps all over me. I haven't read this yet. This is my first read through from having written this. Oh, so I'm going to read that again. The sensory experience of being and interrelating, being the new and higher way for humanity. A global template for this has just been formed. That's what we did as a group on that day. And so it was showing up as this kind of stamp, as this template that we'd laid in for humanity as a group, and that it can be like as though it can be stamped there and then stamped there and then stamped there and then stamped there, and become this new and higher way of templating relating to one another, but through the sensory, through the feeling body, not so much through the mind, through the cognitive, through the voice. So the dolphins, Gaia said, as the cetacean representatives, will take this holographic stamp and share it around the world. So strong areas that for me showed up in the group at that point were people who were clearing their throat chakra and their solar plexus. So, that's what I'm sure humanity in general has been doing over this time as well, this connection between the psychic vision developing and the throat being able to speak this out, this throat being able to speak out the truth from the heart, and then the solar plexus, the clearing of this so that we can move into higher power, higher frequency. And then on the 3rd, that showed up as that we were in the mechanism of, or the process of finding the balance. And there will be found, Gaia said, the still point, the 0 point, and that each will be seeking this now as the higher cosmic rays disintegrate the extremes of polarity for humanity. So, we've been out on the water, in the ocean, and all that beautiful flow. So we perhaps some of you who have been on the land may have experienced that differently to us. But it showed up that this is how, because of this dissolution of the polarities, at the extremes of polarities, that humanity would begin to formulate the new, the higher, the more conscious, the more interrelated. And that when we are noticing what is breaking down or breaking away, to ask the question, how could this be serving me? And what could come that is better? On the 4th, the dolphins said to me, and they also said to Mark, the journalist, he got exactly the same message. You don't have to find us, we'll find you. And so that was interesting. So I think that I was last in the water at that time. I think Mark perhaps had been interviewing me when we stopped, and so we had a little conversation on the deck, and then he and I got into the water at that same time. I think I got in just after him, and then afterwards when we spoke, we'd both been given that message because the rest of them had sort of moved on a bit. The sensitive touch, Gaia said, would be explored on that day in both giving and receiving, requiring, and it's beautiful, a greater sensitivity of the heart. And this is all part of what we're doing as humans now, is that especially the masculine aspect in our world and in ourselves, whether we're in a female body or masculine body, is being affected in the heart, this opening, this softening, this coming into the sensitivity, the feeling our way. It's having a big opening, a big awakening, a big softening for all of us, this greater sensitivity. And then, we all went out for dinner at a restaurant that night, and some people cycled and some people went by taxi and some people walked. And Rebecca and I decided that we would walk. It was this beautiful starlit, moonlit night, but interestingly enough, we got picked up. We got picked up and given a ride back. So that was interesting, by the guy who'd been the chef at the restaurant that we'd eaten at. So very, not many. I think there's only a couple of thousand people who live on the island of Bimini. Guy said on the Thursday, on the 5th of September, she said higher light codes arrived today, and that supports, intensifies, and embeds the light codes that have already come in the earlier part of September. For me, I had in the middle of the night, which is only just gone, So maybe some of you have had this. I had this. There was absolutely nothing that I did in the physical, but I had this pain between my I don't know what it's called, but my thigh bone and my hip socket, and it was like bone on bone. It was quite excruciating, not in the water, but to walk on. And what did I write? There were some things that came through about that. Oh, I've written that somewhere else. I'll find that in a moment. But it was interesting because I was rooming with Mary Jo, and she said just bring some awareness to it and see what it is that it's speaking of. And it was interesting because the answer that I got to that query was, you're always supported. And it was from a higher place. You're always supported. And then MJ said to me, well, it's, it's in the physical because it's your right side. So, yeah, so I kind of, when I dipped into that, I recognized that it was to do with finances, because this has been this huge financial investment for me, to be going there like at the same time as I'd already closed down time because my grandchild had arrived or was arriving, and then I'm moving, so I closed down time to sort some of those things out. And so it really did bring that test to me about being supported. I know I'm supported by the universe, but this was maybe the test, or certainly it showed up as the evidence that I am supported in the physical world by spirit. And I got shown and told that the whole hip thigh thing was all part of what we are all going through, but not necessarily in the same order. So tell me what's been going on for you. But that the physical components in our bodies are being, or were being, probably still are being, realigned. That it relates to the new crystal formations occurring in the body, and that they will be interceding in the bones and in the joints as the body builds new, smoother and higher joint mechanisms with a greater silicon component. Yeah. So I wonder if any of you have been having some inflammation or irritation or pain in your joints. And then Guy said this. So I know it's perhaps not as, I mean, it would have been more useful if I could have given this to you while I've been away, but the internet was in and out there, and it was, you had to be in a particular place, which I couldn't guarantee was private. And then I thought, actually, I just need to be on holiday and soak this up. So hopefully you can find some relevance, even though the timing is a little bit unhelpful, probably. What came was that what is arising, or was arising for humanity now, is likely to have come from the deep, often the dark, and likely the ancient days of wars. So maybe you've been having flashbacks about wars from the early times. I want to say the Sumerian times, the Babylonian times, the ancient Roman, maybe the Atlantean. But that's what Guy was speaking of, the sort of maybe the frequencies held in those injuries, especially in the bones related to that. And these deeply held and repressed cellular memories are being freed from the bones. And it's a bit like, hey, you don't get a choice, okay? They are being released. You don't need them anymore. And so they are being prized open. And she said, be still and know that ye are God. Honour the inner, honour the integral, the truth, the virtues of the living, sentient, coexistence nature of Gaia. Because we are all interconnected here. We are, we all create this fabric, this web of life between and amongst all the in and the out breath, above and below, the inner and outer. Observe and be the witness as each is taken deeper into the turning inside out, as the internal becomes expressed in the external, and observed and witnessed, accepted and integrated, all will be revealed. So you will know that we've been speaking about the truth being revealed and everything being shown up that is false, that is a lie, that is a pretense, that is fake, that's an overlay. And it's really happening in the physical now, and it's also happening not just in the world but in our bodies. So anything that you have had hidden away will be coming up. And it's, it's like I said to a client earlier this morning, I've been shown that we're in the time of your shite will come. Anything that you have hidden away is going to be released, and you can then attend to it. So all will be revealed, is what came from Gaia. First to self, then to one another, and then to the world. So yeah, we then we went to the Atlantean Road. That day we did some swimming with the dolphins. So we dived on a little reef. If any of you have dived at the Poor Nights or tropical reef, it was similar to that. So lots of little tiny tropical colourful fish, few stingrays, and some interesting coral. I am one of those people that love to look at underwater nature. I love looking at all the little nudibranchs and the little tiny anemones and the coral and the colours, and looking in little holes to see where the fish are through the spaces. So we went to we did that, and then we went to the Atlantean Road, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm having this conversation with Mark, who was interviewing me about this particular story, about my being led to go on the Dolphin trip, to go to Bimini Road, and that everything had come up about like this collection of the Emerald Code, and how that has been shown to me is as though there was some fractal of the Emerald Code that I was to collect energetically, and that in doing that, it's like I come into my wholeness in this form, and then it means that everyone else has access to that template, that completion, that whole fractal. And I want to say that there is nothing elitist about what I'm saying, because I feel that in my describing that, I'm describing that for everybody, that everybody is doing that in some form, from some angle, from some perspective. And it might not be the Emerald Code, but it might be the Ruby Code, it might be the Ancient Amethyst, it might be some piece of a puzzle from somewhere that each of you have collected or are or will be collecting. And that this is how, and I've been showing this in a number of ways, but it's a bit like the 100th monkey effect. It's, which is, I don't know if you know of that, but it's these monkeys started, they would eat potatoes. They were on an island, I can't remember, Madagascar maybe, and they started eating potatoes, and then one monkey was seen washing the dirt off the potato in the river mouth or the estuary mouth, and cleaning it, and then the other monkeys on the island started to do it. And then what some anthropologist or somebody like that discovered on another island that was too far away, so some monkey hadn't swum there, started doing the same. And then they noticed that more and more monkeys were doing that, having this washing of their this ritual of washing the dirt off their potatoes before they ate. And this is what has been named the 100th monkey effect. And I feel that, I did a templating of that, and that's what humanity is all doing. So you might have been guided to visit some sacred water. You might have been guided to go to a sacred well. You might have been guided to climb to the top of a mountain that has significance. And I feel that it's like there's something we collect or connect to that makes us whole, that enables everyone else to access that wholeness. I want to know if that makes sense to you. It does make sense to me. Yeah, so the Atlantean Road. So we went to the Atlantean Road. It's interesting. You can still see the pavers, the stones that are laid in for the road. I would say that at one end they were intact, and they were about 2 meters by 1. Each block on the road was that big, and there were maybe 2 or 3 wide. And then I'm only guessing, but I would say maybe 60 meters of that of road, and then it started to deteriorate, and so there would be more spaces and then more crumbling, and then towards the end of it just bits of smaller pieces of those. And I remember I said to Rebecca, I'm zen here. I got nothing. And she said, yeah, I'm the same. And I thought, well, that's just so interesting. And I kind of didn't dwell on it. I knew it would be perfect. But then 3 people who were diving there after we'd swum some of it, and there were 3 different people who said to me, oh, I don't feel good. I've got this thing going on in my stomach, and I've got this thing going on in my heart, and I'm not sure of the exact placements in their bodies, but so I am in the water in my snorkel gear with them, and I am getting flashes of what their Atlantean life experience was, and I'm able to tell them, and they're like, oh yeah, God, that feels right. Oh, my whole body is, going into shivers. And and I don't know the vagaries of this, if you like, but the reality of it, what happened in the real was that there were 3 people who had an experience on the Atlantean Road where they were energetically affected to the extent that they had a physical response, and I was able to attune to what that was. And they are highly intuitive people, and so it made sense to them. They were able to relate to it, and then we were able to do some of the undoing around that. Hi, Rebecca Gamble. So here's the famous Dolphin communicator, animal communicator, Rebecca Gambles, and she's saying she felt so peaceful and heavenly in that location, even though she felt something big had happened there. And yeah, it's the same for me. I know some massive things happened for me there, but I was like that as well. So we both had that experience, and then other people, their stuff came up. So Alive Fry saying her right hip socket woke me up one night. Okay, yeah. So this, that's what we're down to. We're releasing from the bones. Okay, what else is here? And then I might close for today and come in and do the next part. Yeah, so I'm not going to share what happened to those other people, but they had very physical, horrible memories of what had gone on, and I certainly saw some of it, and it made sense. And it was interesting because I haven't seen a lot of the really dark side of it, of Atlantean life. I've seen bits of it, but some of their experiences would have indicated that there was some very dark interfering energetics into people's bodies and experiments. Yeah, so I'll just read this to you, and then the rest of it will be follow-up from that and what I've written since. So on our last day of the dive, which was Friday the 6th, I wrote in here, I feel so blessed and so privileged to have been here. I feel full and sated, although a part of me could stay forever. I'm feeling emotional. Even as I read this, I'm feeling emotional and in deep gratitude for being here, in deep gratitude for being what feels like this very sacred container that has been deep and honouring. And I want to thank Rebecca Gambles for the way in which she interwove that, created that, and held that with each of us, for each of us, and with the variant pods of dolphins. And we dived with some spotted dolphins and some bottlenose dolphins. And yeah, I might read this part as well, because this, and I'm going to post this to the group thread of everyone who went, because this was what Gaia said. So Gaia to the group, including the staff. I don't think I've even read this to you, Rebecca. Gaia wishes to honour you and invites you to feel deeply into the work you have been doing, the sacred weaving that has occurred during this visit to the very sacred waters of Bimini. In this time here, many of you have here. God, I've just got energy going all the way through me. In this time here, many of you have healed, expanded, and developed deeper peace. It's so funny that I'm just seeing that word's come up from Sarah and from Rebecca. Take these home with you, these feelings. You have received codings from Atlantis that will activate memories of who you are at a soul level, and many of your gifts from that time will begin to return. Recognize them when they show themselves to you. Honor your own sacred waters now, and sit in repose with these as the deeper contemplation of self takes on new meaning. Knowingly or not, I'm sorry, I feel very emotional with this. Knowingly or not, you came here on this retreat as sacred emissaries to exchange the fluids of sacred waters, the rememberings of Atlantean life, the emerald codes of higher consciousness, these being internal repositories. Honor and reclaim yourself. Gratitudes and blessings to you on your journeys home. Remember, this is truly the beginning of your journey home to self. So I thank you, and I will leave that there and come back and bring you the notes that I've written since then. But it's very, very profound, and we haven't yet received the fullness of that. Thank you, Charlotte. And Rebecca's facilitating the final call on Sunday, which turns out to be the equinox. Thank you. Yes, it is. It's very beautiful. And then close the container. So, yes, so that makes perfect sense. So I'll speak to you, Rebecca, about that, and maybe I can record that somewhere. All right, so much love to you all as we really are in this new navigation of the new as we're still assimilating. But we're definitely in new energies, in new times, and in new kind of internal facilitation as we're beginning to be in this greater embodiment of who we are. So much love. Have a beautiful day. I will see you again soon.